When you begin to understand the secret of relaxing, you discover that it is not merely a physical act of resting your body, but a spiritual key to creation itself. Tension is resistance, and resistance is disbelief. Whenever the mind is anxious or restless, it is clinging to appearances, wrestling with shadows, or chasing outcomes. Such a mind cannot see clearly because it is clouded with effort and noise. Relaxation, on the other hand, is the quiet surrender to the truth that life already is perfect in its essence. The moment you release your grip on the outer world and stop insisting on controlling every detail, something remarkable happens. The door to your deeper imagination swings open. Creation is effortless because the power that makes worlds is not in the struggle, but in the stillness. You do not manifest by pushing against life. You manifest by letting life flow through you. To relax is to align yourself with the rhythm of the universe. Imagine a seed planted in soil. The seed does not struggle to become a tree. It does not wrestle with the ground or force its way into growth. It simply rests in the assurance of its design. The soil, the water, the sunlight all conspire naturally to fulfill what the seed already is. When you relax, you are like that seed. You allow the invisible forces of life to move through you, shaping your world without strain. The anxiety of the mind is like a gardener constantly digging up the seed to see if it has grown. That gardener interrupts the natural process, but the wise one plants, waters, and then leaves it be, trusting the unseen work. Relaxation is that trust. Many live their days with tight hands, clenched hearts, and furrowed brows, trying to force outcomes, only to discover that the more they grasp, the more life slips away. But when you let go, when you rest inwardly, things begin to flow toward you as if pulled by an unseen magnet. Relaxation dissolves the walls that you unconsciously build against your own good. Every time you take a breath, close your eyes, and remind yourself that the universe is working in perfect harmony. You are stepping into that magnetic field of effortless creation. Relaxation is not laziness. It is not a denial of action. It is the inspired stillness from which right action naturally flows. When you are at ease within yourself, you do not act out of fear or desperation, but out of clarity and inspiration. Action taken from a relaxed state carries power, while action born of struggle only leads to more struggle. To relax is to enter the inner sanctuary where your imagination paints the picture of what already belongs to you. In that sanctuary, you assume your desire fulfilled, and you feel the sweetness of it now, without waiting for tomorrow. That feeling, carried in relaxation, impresses itself upon the deeper mind and sets the law of creation in motion. The anxious person prays in vain because their prayer is drenched in fear. The relaxed person knows their prayer is already answered, because they feel it done in the quiet of their heart. This is why true relaxation is the doorway to creation. It is the invisible soil in which every assumption takes root and grows into visible reality. To relax is to step into faith. It is to say silently, I do not need to chase, for I am already one with that which I seek. Once you grasp this truth, another unfolds. The universe is nothing but your own imagination made visible. What you see outside is not separate from you. It is the shadow, the echo, the reflection of your inner conversations. The universe is not a stranger to your desires. It is their servant. Every belief you hold, every picture you contemplate, every word you whisper inwardly, becomes the substance from which your outer world is shaped. To trust the universe is to trust your imagination, for they are one and the same. Consider for a moment how easily people believe that life is happening to them, that they are victims of chance, circumstance, or the whims of others. They look at events and say, this is unfair, this is random, this is beyond my control. But the awakened one knows that nothing appears on the screen of life that has not first been painted on the canvas of the mind. The universe is not mocking you, nor is it withholding from you. It is faithfully reflecting what you assume to be true. If you live in constant fear of lack, the universe obliges by arranging events that mirror that fear. If you rest in the assurance of abundance, the universe reflects abundance in countless ways. This is why trusting the universe requires no effort at all. It is simply trusting yourself. When you look out upon the world, you are gazing into a mirror. If the reflection displeases you, you do not scold the mirror. You change your expression, and the mirror obeys. So it is with the universe. You alter your inner speech, your assumptions, your feelings, and the outer reflection must follow. The relaxed soul knows this truth and does not panic when appearances seem contrary. They understand that appearances are but delayed echoes of yesterday's thoughts. Today's assumption, held in faith and relaxation, will soon cast its shadow in the world of form. If you truly see the universe as your imagination outpictured, you cease to fight with life. There is no enemy outside, no force against you. Every seeming obstacle is only a reflection of a belief within. To trust the universe, then, is to take responsibility for the pictures you entertain in your mind. It is to know that the moment you assume something to be true and rest in that feeling, the law begins to arrange the stage of life accordingly. You no longer beg circumstances to change. You change yourself, and circumstances obediently shift. Imagine standing before a great canvas with brush in hand. Every thought is a stroke of paint. Every feeling is a color. The picture you hold inside becomes the landscape you walk through outside. To relax is to paint with confidence, without rushing or doubting. To trust is to know that what you paint in imagination must appear in the gallery of your world. The universe has no choice but to reflect the artist's hand, for the universe is the canvas of imagination itself. This realization transforms how you see everything. Suddenly, life is no longer random but meaningful. Challenges become opportunities to discover what hidden assumptions are shaping them. Blessings become confirmations of your faith. The people you meet, the events you encounter, the conditions you experience are all woven threads of your imagination. When you understand this, you stop fighting the tapestry and instead begin to weave it consciously. You rest in the knowledge that what you truly desire already exists within, waiting for you to assume it with conviction. Relaxation and trust become your way of being. You no longer fear the future because you know you are its author. You no longer condemn the past because you understand it as the harvest of earlier seeds. Each moment becomes a chance to rest in a new assumption, to trust in a new vision, to relax into a higher truth. And as you do, the universe mirrors it faithfully. For the universe is your own imagination expressed in form. Silence has always been misunderstood. Many see it as emptiness, as a void, as something to be filled with chatter or action. Yet silence is the womb of creation. It is in silence that the seed of every reality is planted. When you quiet the restless voice of the outer world and retreat inward, you enter into a sacred conversation with the deeper self, the self that knows no limitation. In silence, you are not begging, pleading, or striving. You are communing with the infinite imagination that shapes all things. This silence is not weak, it is not passive, it is not idle. It is the most powerful state you can enter because in silence you touch the root of reality itself. Think of how the world begins its creations. Before a word is spoken, there is the pause. Before any movement, there is the stillness. It is always from silence that sound emerges, from stillness that life bursts forth. The very universe itself, in all its beauty and grandeur, is said to have emerged out of the silent void. And so, when you step into silence, you are stepping into the same creative field that birthed stars and oceans. That silence is not empty, it is pregnant with infinite potential. The trouble is that most people cannot sit with silence. They run from it because it feels unfamiliar, or they seek to drown it out with noise. Yet in running from silence they run from their own power. The outer world is noisy, full of opinions, fears, demands, and distractions. If you try to create from that place, your vision will always be blurred. But when you close your eyes, still your mind, and let silence wash over you, you begin to hear the voice beneath the noise. That voice does not shout. It whispers with certainty. It carries no fear, no doubt, only assurance. The silence that most people fear is in truth the strength they have been seeking all along. To live from silence means you are not swayed by appearances. You do not need to announce to the world what you are imagining. You do not seek validation from others. You hold your vision quietly, knowing that the unseen Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. The true act of creation is invisible. It happens in the still chamber of imagination where no one else can enter. And it is precisely because it is unseen that it holds such power. When you guard your vision in silence, you prevent the interference of doubt, both from yourself and from the voices of others. You allow the image to grow strong within before it emerges without. Silence is also the ground where feeling deepens. When you are quiet, you are not distracted by explanations or rationalizations. You are free to sink into the feeling of your wish fulfilled. It is in silence that you feel what it is like to already be the person you long to be, to already hold what you desire to hold. That feeling in silence impresses itself upon your subconscious mind far more powerfully than any words you could ever speak aloud. Words may falter, arguments may waver, but a silent conviction is unshakable. It does not need to announce itself, it simply is. This leads naturally into the great truth that assumption creates reality. All creation begins in assumption. What you assume to be true, whether you are conscious of it or not, sets the pattern of your life. The outer world is not a matter of chance or accident. It is a mirror reflecting what you have assumed. When you understand this, you see why silence is so crucial. For in silence you plant the assumption and let it take root. You no longer allow the chatter of doubt to uproot it. You rest in the certainty of it as though it were already a fact. Assumption is not wishful thinking. It is not vague hope. It is the conscious choice to feel a desire as already accomplished. You step into the end state in imagination and occupy it fully. You walk as though it were true. You speak as though it were true. You feel the relief and joy of it as though it were true. The mind may protest and the senses may deny it, but the law of life responds only to the assumption you hold within. And once that assumption is established, the universe bends to make it visible. To assume is to claim. It is to say inwardly, this is already mine. Not tomorrow, not one day, but now. This claim is made not with force but with calm assurance. The one who assumes does not strain, for strain is evidence of doubt. The one who assumes rests in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. They know that what is held inwardly must eventually appear outwardly, for that is the law. Just as a seed assumes the form of a tree when planted in fertile soil, so the assumption of your fulfilled desire will unfold in the fertile ground of your subconscious mind. When you look at life through the lens of assumption, you begin to see that everything you encounter is a reflection of your own inner posture. If you assume rejection, you will meet rejection. If you assume favor, doors open effortlessly. If you assume lack, opportunities dry up. If you assume abundance, channels of supply appear from unexpected places. The law does not discriminate. It reflects faithfully. And the tool given to you to shape what is reflected is assumption. What makes assumption so powerful is that it bypasses the rational mind. The rational mind argues, measures, and calculates. It says this is too big, this is too unlikely, this is too far away. But assumption ignores these objections. It declares the end is present and rests in it. This resting is what impresses the deeper mind, and the deeper mind is what creates. By assuming the end and living from it, you rewrite the pattern of your reality. This is why assumption is inseparable from relaxation and silence. You cannot force assumption, for force only signals resistance. You assume by relaxing into the feeling of it being done, by holding it quietly within, and by refusing to let appearances shake your conviction. The silence gives it depth, the relaxation gives it strength, and the assumption gives it life. Together they form the unshakable foundation of manifestation. As you live from assumption, you begin to discover that reality is more pliable than you were ever taught to believe. You see coincidences turn into certainties, desires crystallize into events, and inner states transform into outer circumstances. The once invisible link between your imagination and your world becomes undeniable. And the more you prove this law in small things, the more you trust it in great things. Eventually you reach a place where assumption is no longer a technique you practice, but a natural way of being. You live from the end, you dwell in silence, and the universe cannot help but mirror your inner stance. Faith has often been misunderstood as effort. Many people believe that to have faith is to constantly push against doubt, to keep affirming, to keep reminding, to keep working at believing until something finally happens. Yet true faith is nothing of the sort. True faith is rest. It is the quiet knowing that what is desired already exists in the unseen, and because it already exists, there is no struggle in claiming it. When you fall asleep at night, you do not struggle to keep your body breathing or your heart beating. You rest, knowing that life continues its work without your interference. In the same way, faith is the ability to rest inwardly, to lean back on the assurance that the law of life is unfailing, and that your imagination has already done the work. This is why faith cannot be anxious. Anxiety is the mark of disbelief. It shows that one is still looking outward for proof, still searching for signs, still questioning whether the unseen is truly real. Faith, on the other hand, is content in silence. It does not demand signs because it knows the sign will follow. It does not chase evidence because it understands that evidence must come after the assumption. Never before. Faith is satisfied with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, knowing that this feeling itself is the substance of what will soon appear. To live in faith is to live in the end. You no longer carry the tension of wanting because you have already received inwardly. The mind may argue and the senses may deny, but faith does not waver, it rests. It is like the traveler who, having bought the ticket, does not worry whether the train will come. They sit calmly on the platform, knowing the train is already theirs by right of purchase. The anxious one paces, looking down the track every few seconds, doubting whether it will arrive. The one in faith relaxes, confident that the schedule will be kept. Such is the difference between doubt and faith. When you truly enter this rest, life becomes lighter. You are no longer burdened with trying to make things happen. You no longer wear yourself out with schemes and strategies. Instead, you abide in the assurance that everything is already unfolding for your good. And because you rest, you open the way for inspiration to reach you. Right action flows not from worry, but from rest. The phone call you feel prompted to make, the step you feel inspired to take, comes naturally when you are at ease within yourself. You begin to see that faith is not passive but profoundly creative, for it is rest that allows the unseen to crystallize into the seen. Yet many resist this kind of rest because they confuse it with surrendering to weakness. They think if they stop pushing, nothing will happen. They believe that if they do not keep their hands tightly on the wheel, life will spiral out of control. But here lies the paradox. The more you struggle to control, the more chaotic life seems to become. It is only when you release the tension and trust that the deeper law is at work that harmony begins to appear. This is where surrender enters, and surrender is often mistaken for defeat. But surrender in its true form is strength. It is the boldest declaration of power one can make because it says, I no longer rely on the limited efforts of my outer self. I rest in the limitless strength of imagination itself. Surrender is not about giving up your desires. It is about giving up your resistance. It is the decision to stop clutching so tightly at the how, and instead rest in the certainty of the what. When you surrender, you shift from trying to force life to bend to your will into allowing life to flow according to your assumption. You are no longer the struggler swimming against the current, but the one who floats, carried effortlessly by the river toward the ocean of fulfillment. This does not mean you are inactive. It means that the actions you take come from inspiration, not desperation. They are light, joyful, and effective, rather than heavy, forced, and draining. Think of a child learning to walk. The child does not force the process with anxiety. They surrender to the natural rhythm of growth, and step by step the ability unfolds. Imagine if the child were to panic, thinking, what if I never walk? What if I fall again? That worry would only make the process clumsy and delayed. But the child who surrenders to the process, trusting that walking is natural, eventually walks with ease. In the same way, when you surrender, you align with what is already natural to your imagination. Surrender also requires trust in the unseen. The outer world is slow to change, and appearances may still deny the assumption. But surrender does not demand instant results. It rests in the knowing that the unseen work is already done, just as a farmer surrenders the seed to the soil, trusting that it will sprout in due season. So you surrender your assumption to the subconscious, knowing it must bear fruit in the outer world. The farmer does not dig up the seed each day to check whether it is growing. They surrender it to the unseen processes of life. Likewise, surrender means allowing the unseen to do its perfect work without interference. Some will hear the word surrender and think it means weakness, but nothing could be further from the truth. To surrender requires courage because it asks you to trust what cannot be seen. It requires strength because it calls you to let go of the world's constant demand for proof and validation. It is far easier to panic, to force, to strive, than it is to rest in quiet conviction. Only the strong can surrender. Only the courageous can release their grip and let the deeper law prove itself. And in that surrender, you discover that life moves more smoothly. The doors you once tried to push open suddenly swing wide on their own. The opportunities you strained for suddenly arrive without effort. The relationships, resources, and circumstances you thought you had to chase now flow naturally to you. This is the paradox of surrender. By letting go, you gain. By releasing the need to control, you step into greater control. By ceasing to struggle, you find yourself carried to the very place you were trying so hard to reach. Faith and surrender are two sides of the same coin. Faith is the rest that knows it is done. Surrender is the strength that allows it to unfold without interference. Together they free you from the endless cycle of striving and doubting. They lift you into a new way of living where you are no longer the beggar at the door of life, but the master of your own inner world. And as you master that inner world, the outer must bow in reflection. When you begin to understand how the law of life works, one of the greatest freedoms you discover is that you do not have to concern yourself with the question of how. The rational mind is obsessed with this question. It constantly asks, how will this happen? How will this person appear? How will the money come? How will the opportunity unfold? This obsession with how is the root of doubt because it keeps you looking outward for proof and explanation. But the law does not ask you to figure out how. The law asks you to rest in what? What is the desire? What is the end you long to experience? Once you know the answer, your only task is to assume its fulfillment and live as though it were already so. The rest is not your burden to carry. The law operates through natural means, and this is where most fail to recognize its hand. They expect flashes of the miraculous, the parting of seas, the sudden lightning of divine intervention. Yet the law works quietly, weaving its pattern through natural channels. The phone call from a friend, the unexpected meeting, the subtle shift in circumstances, the sudden idea that crosses your mind. These are all the ways the law arranges itself to bring about the assumption you hold. To the untrained eye, these look like coincidences. To the one who knows, they are certainties. They are the natural outworking of an inner assumption. Consider a person who assumes that they are now successful in their chosen work. They do not know how the recognition will come or through whom it will arrive. They simply rest in the feeling that they are already established, respected, and secure. Days later, perhaps they meet someone at a gathering who offers them an opportunity, or a client appears out of nowhere, or a new idea takes hold of them and leads to greater prosperity. From the outside, it looks like chance. From the inside, it is nothing but the law fulfilling its promise through natural means. This is why the one who trusts the law no longer wastes energy on figuring out details. They understand that life has infinite channels, infinite connections, infinite ways of bringing the assumption to pass. The how belongs to the deeper wisdom of the subconscious and the imagination. The what belongs to you. If you occupy the what fully and consistently, the law will clothe it with facts in ways that astonish you. The path may appear so ordinary that you almost miss it, but when you look back you will see how perfectly each event was aligned, each meeting arranged, each detail harmonized to bring about the desire. The anxious person constantly interrupts this process by demanding to know how. They watch the ground of their life like a gardener who digs up the soil each morning to check if the seed has sprouted. In doing so, they disrupt the process. But the wise one plants the seed of assumption and leaves it be, trusting the soil of life to do its work. They water it with feeling and guard it with silence, but they do not interfere with the hidden mechanics. This trust is not naive, it is understanding. It knows that law works through the most natural paths available and requires no strain. Once you grasp this, you stop limiting life. You stop telling yourself that your desire can only come through one channel. You stop saying it must be this person, this job, this door. You realize that the universe has countless doors and every one of them is yours to walk through. The law chooses the most natural channel to deliver your assumption, and often it is one you never imagined. That is why you need not limit yourself with how. Simply occupy the end, and the law will move mountains if necessary. But more often it will move quietly through everyday means until the end becomes fact. This truth leads into the final revelation, which is that you are already one with the fulfillment you seek. You are not chasing after something outside yourself. You are not reaching for something that belongs to another. You are not trying to pull the future into the present. You are already it. The very desire that stirs in you is proof that the fulfillment already exists within. Desire is nothing more than awareness of what you already are. The fact that you can imagine it is evidence that you are one with it. To trust the universe is simply to remember this truth. When you say to yourself, I am already what I desire to be, you are not lying or pretending. You are declaring the most profound fact of life. The outer world has not yet caught up with this recognition, but that does not make it any less true. You are always greater than the facts you see around you. The facts are simply shadows cast by past assumptions. The reality is the state you choose to occupy now, and when you occupy it fully, when you accept it without resistance, the outer world must rearrange itself to reflect what you already are. This is why the language of assumption is always in the present tense. You do not say I will be, for that pushes fulfillment into the future. You say I am. You feel I am. You walk as though I am. This present declaration fuses you with the end. It collapses the illusion of distance between you and your desire. And once you feel that unity, there is no more waiting, no more striving, no more longing. There is only being, and being is creation itself. To live in this way is to realize that you have never been separate from what you seek. The wealth, the love, the health, the freedom, the joy, all of it has always been within you as potential. It was waiting for your recognition. The moment you accept I am already one with it, that potential begins to take form in the outer world. The circumstances shift, the people appear, the doors open, because they must. They have no choice but to mirror the state you now embody. This is why you no longer need to beg or chase or strive. You are not trying to convince the universe to give you something. You are awakening to the fact that you already are it. And the universe, being your own imagination expressed, simply reflects that recognition back to you. Every struggle comes from forgetting this truth. Every ease comes from remembering it. When you know you are one with the fulfillment, you stop asking when and how. You simply rest in the joy of already being. And that state of being becomes the outer world in due time. It is a strange paradox. The moment you stop chasing, the thing you once chased begins to pursue you. The moment you stop looking outward for signs, the signs appear everywhere. The moment you accept that you already are, life rushes to prove you right. This is the beauty of the law. It never fails. It only reflects. And when you assume I am already, you give it the most powerful instruction of all.